SALC that they concur with that as well. So, hopefully that deals with the first issue as to whether Sarah was or was not a councillor at that meeting. So, with that in mind, we have the 5th of July minutes that have been circulated. Are there any other items that members want to raise on those minutes? If not, can I have a proposal that I sign them as a true and accurate record? I'm sorry, it's only members who can take part in this.
That's fine. I know. I was going to ask if I could speak, but that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all those in favour that we sign those minutes, please show. Those against? Abstentions? That's clearly carried. Thank you. The next item is the confidential minutes that were of the 5th of July. If we are to obviously discuss any details of those confidential minutes, we would have to go into confidential session to discuss them. But are there any issues that members have with those minutes, or can we take those as signed as a true and accurate record? Could I have a proposer? Thank you, Colin. All those in favour, please show. Those against, please show. And abstentions? Thank you. Carried by a majority. And then we move to the meeting of the 19th of July, which you have before you. Councillor Kingscote raised a matter relating to the item that was discussed in terms of us asking for a quantity supplier to cast an eye over the situation. As it is at that meeting, no decision was taken in terms of actually expenditure or committing the council to do anything. It was discussed about making the documents available. As a matter of fact, actually, that has not happened because, as you will hear later in the agenda, there is further information relating to tenders, so that action has not been actioned anyway. Are there any other comments or questions on those minutes? Councillor Melina.
Well, in regards to the fact that an item of business was discussed that wasn't on the agenda, I thought we could only discuss items of business that are on the agenda, and for it to be said that that item sort of dovetailed into a National Grid item was another piece of fudge, because they were two completely separate items. One was on the agenda and one wasn't, so one should have been put on the agenda, which is what I said.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say, Melina, is that yes, you're right. If only items on the agenda should be considered at any meeting. However, you have to have some level of flexibility. You cannot have a rigid, robotic council, because otherwise we would never do anything. That was not a decision that was taken. There was nothing that happened during that decision changed anything. It was simply moving the thing on a bit to save another meeting, delaying the whole process. I'm a stickler for everything that should be done correctly, but you have to be a little bit flexible. There has to be some flexibility built in. And in fact, the local government rules are, there are flexibilities built in, providing you've actually adhered to the spirit of the law. I mean, the fact is no law was actually broken, no statutory law was broken by doing that. We simply showed a bit of flexibility, and that's all I would say on that.
And in terms of the discussion that took place, we were not resolving to incur expenditure or to take a specific action. What we were in effect saying was we could make information available.
But if items are supposed to be on the agenda for them to be discussed, so that members of the public know what's going to be on the agenda, and if they want to come along and speak on it, they can. If you start putting things on the, discussing things that aren't on the agenda, people don't know and they can't come along and speak.
I'm happy to take that on board, and certainly, as I say, no action has followed from what happened at the meeting.
It's not irrelevant because it's literally in our standing orders.
So we will acknowledge the fact that yes, that is something that we will not be doing, and certainly no action followed from that. We have the item on the agenda today to have further discussions on it, and action will follow from that.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have the minutes of the 19th of July. Are there any other amendments to those, or so is there a proposal that we sign those as a true and accurate record? And all those in favour, please show. Any abstentions?
Wasn't there?
Okay, so that's clearly carried. Okay. So that moves us on to item 4, which is planning considerations, and unusually, there aren't any. So, next item then is the clerk's report on correspondence matters and surgery.
Yeah, well, we didn't have surgery this time anyway, so there's nothing to report on the surgery. I just wanted to clarify with you on the email of information, because quite honestly, the amount of stuff I get, so much of it is irrelevant, but I don't send it out to any, and as you know, I started producing a list. I'm not sure that list is all that helpful, because it doesn't give enough information for you to know whether you want any more information on it or not. So what I'm going to propose is that I will send out, Melina, you've asked for everything, you will get everything.
Thank you.
But in terms of the rest of the council, are you happy for me to decipher the things that really are relevant to us? I mean, if I tell you that 60% of the emails I've had recently have no relevance to this council whatsoever. Now, do you really want to fill your inbox up with that stuff? If you do, I'll happily send it. But I don't want to be sending you a load of stuff that, frankly, the important things get lost. Because if you're not sending, if you're sending so much stuff, things that really do need information are just going to get lost in the ether, I'm afraid, because you don't have the whole day to sit and look at my emails. I'm sure you're much busier than that. So, if you do require the whole lot, then I'm very happy to send them to you. But otherwise, if you would leave it to me to send you those, and if we require any information, or if we require a response from you, I'll put it on it. If it's something that's important for you to respond to. So if you're happy with that.
If I could ask then, is there anyone who would like to have absolutely everything sent to them so we can let Owen know? We've got Melina down. Is everyone else happy that, in effect, Owen filters what needs to come through and then we receive that? All those in favour that we work on that basis, then please show. Okay, and those against?
Sorry,
and abstentions?
yeah, sorry, I'm going to have to think about that, so I'll come back to you. So I'll stay for the moment.
Okay, fine.
Okay. I don't think there's any other matters. I sent you yesterday, I think it was, a for a summary of the budget, which no doubt you've had a look at. And that's hopefully a third of the year through. So it was fairly indicative of what's been happening since the beginning of April. And of course you've also had the fact that the external audit passed its flying colours, and we have now a certificate which is now on the website to back the external auditor's certificate up.
Okay. Thank you very much. In which case we'll move on to item 5, which is the working groups. Any reports from the footpaths team? Okay. Can I just report a couple of things? At the last meeting it was talked about the Windy Ridge, people crossing the field where they shouldn't, and what was the right route of the path. I got from Somerset Council the definitive map, and I've made that available to the owners of Windy Ridge, so that the suggestion I've made to them is that they follow the same procedure that we've done on the Battleborough Lane path, which was put in a white post at the points where people should be aiming for, and potentially, hopefully, that will then encourage people to walk the proper line of the path. It isn't exactly around the edge of the path, I can tell you, but if folks want to have a look and pass it down. But that's the route of the path, and it does show that it's along the edge of towards the edge of the field. So hopefully, if they can do that, that will help them with their stock, and the fact that walkers were letting dogs interfere with them.
Mr. Chairman, on footpaths, 2 people have, which I met while out walking the dog, have commented on their disappointment that footpath from the bakers around to the tanks, which used to be looked after by Mike Diamond, is pretty unpassable at the moment, and if nothing's done, in 12
It's
months'
horrendous.
time, it's going to be even more unpassable. It's a difficult one because we have no, if you remember, the land registry shows Mike Diamond's boundary right up to the tree line. And I understand that Mike Diamond actually put that footpath in to stop people crossing his fields. But there is a footpath there and it should be maintained. I'm not sure how we go about it given the past correspondence, but if it's left, it's just going to be impassable, which is unfair on people.
Yeah, Owen, do you want to give an update on what we've done in terms of correspondence?
Well, not a great deal. I mean, I've sent correspondence out to the Bristol Water Company. I haven't had a response from them, and I'm not surprised because usually it takes quite a long time to get a response from Bristol Water Company. And I've also sent an email to the landowner, but as yet not received a response. So I can't really report very much on that actually at this stage.
If you're happy for us to follow that up with them again and make another approach.
I think so, or we need to get Chris East involved on a proper basis to have a look at it. Because obviously he's blocked the gate off now, which people used to use, which is probably his right, but it is spoiling the public's ability to actually walk that path and then on.
Can I just clarify, because again this is a blown up version of the other map we've circulated. Are we talking about the path that's running along the ridge, or are we talking about the path that's coming up, that was the circular path around that way?
You mean from Windy Ridge before to the water tower, don't you, Colin? I think.
Um,
So that's pretty,
that's
it's pretty
Windy Ridge there.
impassable.
Sorry,
That's Windy Ridge, that's the hill lane through here.
okay, so you come up here, you walk around his field,
Yeah,
then you go down the corner here,
yes,
so it's from here
right,
to more or less here,
yeah.
that section.
Yeah, it's pretty impassable.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're happy that we make further we will get in touch with the landowners. I make my personal contact with them actually and see
Take
what they
one
do.
of those to the minutes actually.
Yeah,
For future reference, might be useful actually.
yeah. Okay, no, we'll certainly follow that up. AD.
Well, it seems to be every month now. It comes up all the time about being overrun and stuff like that. Can't we just get a little boop up for now and just get it done, get it seen to, and then because it could take another month before we hear back from anyone and stuff like that. Can we do something ourselves or whatever? Otherwise, at least it looks good that we are trying to do something.
I mean, if
Because every month it's coming up now.
Can I just
Colin?
can I respond to that? We did have a price from Stephen Pin,
Yeah.
who would clear the path from behind the church all the way up to the knoll, trim the car park and trim that path for 500 quid, the whole lot. He would do it. I don't think we agreed to do it, but I can't remember, but it was suggested that it could be an annual job, that we just call him out, because even the path behind the church leading up to the first kissing gate is in a poor state again, and that in 12 months' time will be overgrown again. And they're the key footpaths, apart from the ones over the field that are used by the villagers. So
I propose that we all suggest that we get him to do it. Immediately, because it's for the public, it's for the parish to walk up there. I wouldn't like to walk up there, and I'm one of the councillors. I like to do it myself, sort of thing, because I get fed up with it. But everyone else is getting fed up with it. I've had a complaint. That's what I've got.
I don't know what others feel about it.
John.
I'd just like to add to that. I know at least 1 or 2 people in the village who have started businesses, and I think it would be courteous to maybe put that as a job. I'm not saying it may not be the best price and it may be the best person for the job, but I think certainly in my role, I think it would be nice for it to go out. I certainly know of one very hard worker, in my opinion, who would certainly like another opportunity to quote, and then we can review it as a council. And if this guy obviously gets it, then happy days. But if another member in the village or surrounding was opportunity for them to quote for it as well. So I appreciate your thoughts on speed,
Mm.
but also I think maybe just a couple of weeks we could advertise it and see if there was someone else who would be keen to quote, make sure we're getting best value.
So our council happy that we go out and get some quotes, but at the same time we'll pursue the landowners anyway, because ultimately it's technically their responsibility.
Yeah.
But if they're not going to do it, do we just then let the parishioners suffer? I mean, that's the decision we'll have to make as to whether we think it's worth spending the money to do it. Amanda?
That's what Aid just said, yeah, because obviously I did bring this up at the last meeting, we know there's an issue, but the problem is, when you get people in to quote, that you can't access them because the landowners won't let us act. So you couldn't take a trailer in there or something, because they won't let us go across their fields. So if they're going to insist on having it fenced off, they really need to be pushed into clearing it, because it's their fence, they've got it fenced off. So, or they take the fence down and we'll get a contract in, whoever gives us the best price, with a trailer and the proper equipment to clear it. Because we can't clear it if they won't let us access this.
Okay. So if members are happy, then we'll follow the twin track. We will approach the landowners to see if we can get them to actually do the work, but also we will go out for quotes.
Now, where do you want quotes to go out? Because obviously we haven't got a BK until September.
What I would suggest is outside of this meeting, we have a list of people who've registered with us previously who do these sorts of jobs. If there are others that members know of that they would like us to go, notify us of those, and we'll add those to the list.
If they contact by email, then we'll,
Because then we can make it open. And so in effect, just again, we need to know what we're quoting for. We're talking for the stretch that's going between the reservoir and Windy Ridge is the section that we're looking at doing.
Yeah, in
So
theory,
that's reservoir.
the reservoir should do that. But
Yes.
there's a question about that footpath, but I don't think that it's really between there and there.
Okay.
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So are members happy that we proceed on that basis? All those in favour, please show. Okay.
Can I have one
Colin,
comment?
again, and I'll come back to Amy.
I know this isn't related to footpaths particularly, but Peter Osborne has pointed out that the sign for the Coronation Oak in Church Lane, we have a nice sign. Unfortunately, sunshine, or when we did have it, the plaque has, if you like, buckled away from the main posts and needs reciting. Could who's the guy? Paul Dixon be asked to have a look at that for us, please? And Peter pointed that out.
I was happy we get an estimate for that, and then we'll report back to the next meeting.
Yes. Thank you.
All those. Okay, thank you. We'll do that. Edie.
2 complaints about the 5-bar gate down at the Burton Road corner to the footpath that way, going up.
By the
It's
side
all
of
damaged, it's all damaged in that lot, and they're struggling to get it open, whatever. I haven't seen it, I haven't had time to get down there yet, but apparently, it's very tricky or something. I don't know who owns it.
Oh, yeah, that got sold, didn't it?
Yeah, so that was...
Yeah, I know
The
which
table
house
lands.
it is.
People
Yes.
in table lands have it,
They-
don't they?
No, they did. They've
Right.
sold it now. It's one of those new houses to the other side of it, and they've got some land down in Middle Street as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just that they're complaining about.
They own
Well-
one of those big red brick houses.
Okay, well, if we can do a bit of investigation and let Owen know who it is, if we just drop them a friendly note,
I
just
can
drawing to their
find out,
attention.
because
Good.
yeah, I
Drop it
can
out
find
and
out. Yeah,
I'll raise it.
yeah.
What's that?
Thank you.
Excellent. And if there's nothing else on footpaths, no, okay. Highways, Aidy.
Yeah. Reference gully pots, obviously it came through tonight. We're going to Brent Street. When I went down there was only a little bit of water down there, but the gully pots are quite full, some of them along the roads here, Station Road, Ham Road, Burton Road, Brent Street. I think I've seen them out once in the last year to do the gully pots, to come out and clean them. So I think they're going to need doing again. Sorry? No.
No, sorry, I was trying to work out
Yeah.
what gully pots are.
So, yeah, sorry, yeah. Because obviously they're there to catch all the crap. That's what they're designed to say, gully pots, but they're going down the pipes and blocking the pipes up now, so it does need doing. So whether we can get onto them and find out what's happening.
It's a highways issue.
Yeah, I think
Was it
what I would, well, it is highways. What I would just suggest is, basically highways are on a 2-yearly cycle. So if there are particular ones that we report a particular drain, they will come out and do it. So if you can highlight the ones to report, otherwise if we just say generally Brent Street, they'll come back and say
I'll come back at
which.
next meeting then.
Well, no, I mean you've raised it, if you can just pass those details on to Owen in the meantime, and he'll wait to
Okay.
contact them until we know.
All right. Also, Hill Lane height restricting barrier for Hill Park, Hill Lane car park.
Yeah, height restriction.
And obviously I'm meeting the bin people tomorrow. Yeah. And then I'll get the sign up the van and hopefully put that on it.
Yeah.
And if that's what you want, the sign on the bin itself.
I would have thought it would make sense to have them. So in effect, the meeting tomorrow, they're going to be working out where it goes. They may not be actually physically doing it, but it's
Right.
agreeing where it's going to go. So it may well be that you can pass them the sign to put on the post when they put the post in.
Yeah, okay.
Um,
Although I have to say, I actually got the impression they were going to do it tomorrow.
well, if they do, all the better. But I don't want to count the chickens. But
Okay. All right, but that is it. Obviously, I'll get...
so the other thing you mentioned there was the car park height issue.
Yeah.
We talked about this a couple of meetings ago and didn't
Mm.
decide necessarily what we were going to do. The concern was that potentially we might have that car park being misused, particularly for people who might have caravans or motorhomes sleeping in there overnight. And the suggestion was that we go ahead and put a height restriction across it, which can be opened when we need to let something big go in, but normally would be locked into a height thing. And my understanding is, AD is suggesting that that is something that a working party could do. What I would like to ask tonight is, are you happy that a working party does that? And that will involve obviously purchase of an element of scaffolding poles to do that.
Good idea, let's go and do it.
I mean, the danger is if we don't do something and then we get someone up there camping, we're going to...
Yeah,
Well,
we could be opening the floodgates, yeah, let's get on and do it.
Obviously, we need a sign to say height restriction, so
Yeah.
if anyone does it, then they won't be able to claim a penny because of some height
Can
restrictions.
I ask though, you maximise your health and safety
Yeah.
controls when you do the job, because we don't actually have a health and safety policy covering that area at the moment. So just ought to be aware. Let's put signage up and make sure it's all properly secure
Okay.
from a health and safety perspective.
So are members happy that we go, that I'll delegate to AD, that you coordinate a working party
All right.
to do that? All those members in favour that we do that, please show.
Sorry, can I just ask a question? Sorry for that.
Yeah.
Do we know rough cost what it's going to? Do we know rough?
No, I don't know.
So
Because it's all, I'll put that in now and I'll put it out to everyone then. Is that? Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, if it looks like it's running away with costs, then we will.
Oh, no.
But I mean, I think what we're proposing is not going to be an expensive construction.
Okay.
Okay. So that moves us on to the village green.
Oh,
Sorry, no, it doesn't.
Something else. When you come up Wick Lane, from Wick Lane to turn onto Burton Row, as you get to the end, the hedge on the left is so overgrown that you've got to pull halfway across the carriageway. And my daughter, who keeps her horse in Wick Lane, said even on the horse, you've got to walk right across to get out. And I came out there the other day with the horse box on, and it's really dangerous.
That's Elm Tree Farm.
Oh, is it?
Wick Lane or Burton Row, it's right on the corner.
Yeah, okay. Do you want me to write to Humphrey Farm?
I think if we can, again, just a friendly note
Friendly
saying
note.
it's been drawn to our attention.
It's, the hedge is so overgrown that you have to cross halfway across the road before to see if there's something coming from the East Brent direction.
Yeah. I know the owner of Elm Tree anyway, so
Yeah.
I think it shouldn't be too difficult to...
Excellent. Anything else on highways? So that takes us to the village green toilet block and car park. So who was on?
Colin was doing the...
Okay.
Surprise.
That's all right.
I'm sorry, yeah, no.
I'll kick off for a start then.
I didn't realise it was me, I'm
That's
sorry.
okay. Well, we've got a couple of thanks. One to Amy, because hopefully members will have noticed that the bench that was in the middle that we talked about at the last meeting that was falling over has now gone. So that's been dealt with. Thank you, Amy. And also the working group met and dealt with the far side of the green. We didn't do the shrubs at the front because we thought it was probably safer at this time of year not to do that in case there was anything in there. Also, just to update you that that was raised at the last meeting that there was a leak in the gents' toilet. That has been dealt with.
Today, yeah.
Yes. And one other thing I was just going to raise to make you aware of is that I've had been contacted by residents who live next door to the village green who have got a concern about a ash tree which they believe they've been advised has got ash dieback. It is our side of the green, so technically it's our tree at the top of the top right-hand corner of the green. So at the moment they've spoken to a tree surgeon. I've been in touch with Jeanette Burton at Somerset Council to come out and have a look at it. It's in proximity also to the National Grid kit, so we may have to have a discussion with them about it as well, but it's got a TPO on it, so Jeanette Burton at Somerset will have to have a look at it anyway, and then I'll report back as to any information I get following that. But that's, if anyone hears anything about trees on the top, that's what it's about. There's concern that it's got ash dieback and therefore might cause a problem. Colin.
Mr Chairman, I must apologise for my lack of response on Village Green and Car Park, and I will do it. Ready for take it, whoever's turn it is next month.
Malcolm's due for the
I will do it, Malcolm. Sorry. Have a break. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Is there anything that anyone? Yes.
Could I just bring up, I noticed a sausage sizzler, a young child running out into the car park from the playing field. Could we not just put a latch gate to stop children escaping?
So
Well, they are. You know when you walk into the park and you sort of go to the left.
So from the car park?
Yeah, from the car park. Well, he was coming from the park out into the car park.
Behind the shop.
So through the...
Yeah, so
The back
if
of the car.
so if you had a latch gate, a high latch, little people can't reach. It is, I mean, fortunately the mum did see. I mean, she was onto it,
Yeah.
but they're oblivious when they're only little.
And we can certainly look at that. I mean, how does that affect us in terms of access for people as well? I mean,
As long as it's a disability one, isn't it? You know, I mean, it's easy access
Yeah,
for
you just
disability
might-
wheelchairs
yes.
that lot.
You've still got the access here, though. They can run up the side of the
Well, yes.
wall. There's no,
Yeah, they do tend to run from the
Yeah,
come
it's
down.
more direct, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, are members happy that we get a couple of quotes as to what a gate will be?
Yeah, we need
and
some.
we'll have okay, we'll do that. Okay. If there's nothing else on the village green, that takes us to audit and monitoring the staffing group. I don't.
there is nothing.
No meet? No. Buildings working group update. Very minute and turn the thing off. Right. So the buildings working group, we have held a meeting. We met with the architect to look at the issue of the potential how we move forward with tendering, and look at what the position is, but also to look at the rerouting of the cable. So the state of play with the architect was that we obviously need to make sure that there isn't a double counting of work that needs to be done, because originally obviously we were talking about handing over an empty box to the shop and they were fitting it all out, and then as part of our tender, in order to make it building regs compliant, we have to do more than just have an empty box. So what the architect has done within the tender document already is he's got, I think it was Schedule 14, where in fact he's lumped all the stuff that is being done by us, which technically should be done by the shop, into that schedule, so it would be separately priced. the proposal that we're going to look at the moment is that there ought to be a meeting between ourselves and the shop committee through the liaison group to basically look at what it is the architect has put in that tender, what they have looked at for their works, because I understand from the annual members meeting that that they have had a quote for fitting out the shell. And as I say, what we need to avoid is making sure that it's in both. So the plan is for there to be a meeting of the working party of the shop liaison group to look at that, and then we bottom that out before we can go to any point of any further future tenders, because obviously we need to make sure whether it's their contractors end up doing it as part of our project or how that works out. We need to.
And we're bouncing ideas at the moment. We've got 3 or 4 dates that we're bouncing around with to see whether we can get a consensus date for everybody. Because obviously we probably won't get everybody because it is August and people will be away, etc. But I'm sure we'll get most. Let's put it that way.
And I think the hope is to get that meeting in August so that by the time we're back here in September, we're at a stage where we can be discussing what we're doing in terms of tender. So that's the update on the buildings working group. Councillor Kingscote, you raised, or Melina, you raised an issue that you wanted on the agenda about everybody going to working group meetings and them being open to the public and having minutes.
Well, not necessarily everybody going, but anybody going that is interested.
And I think that the purpose, to be honest, why the working groups were set up was for a small group of councillors to work on stuff, make no decisions, and then bring them back for the whole council to discuss it. If we're going to have working groups where potentially the entire council is turning up, and as I say, in your proposition you were saying public as well, I think it rather defeats the object of having a working group. I don't know how other members feel.
Totally agree. There's no point in having working groups if everyone can go to it. I think there's no point.
Maybe scrap the working group.
Well, I mean, it's certainly the whole point of, say, a working group is to try and move things on between meetings, so that then information can be collated, presented at the subsequent meeting for members to discuss and make decisions on. Melina, and then Amanda.
There does seem to be a lack of information coming from the working group. So, for example, what is happening with the tendering process? Because I thought our tender should have closed by now.
Well,
It's been closed a long time.
it has been closed, and
Okay.
we've got on item 7F is the tendering process for the shop build on the agenda today.
In terms of minutes and agendas and so forth, we're only required to do those for committees where the public are actually invited. We don't have to produce minutes. We can produce some notes, which is possibly quite useful once we start to get into some detail, produce some notes for everybody to share. But there's absolutely no reason at all to put forward minutes for these meetings. There's no requirement for us to do so. But we will obviously issue, as I say, we'll issue notes, giving them sort of a few bullet points of the sort of things that were discussed. But in any event, because we're not making any decisions, we're simply bringing them to the council the next time around. That's when the minute will be made, when we discuss it with the full council.
Okay. Amanda and John.
What I was going to say was that the point of having the small working groups is that it's easier to set a date which is convenient for everybody. If you start opening it up to everybody, the whole council and the public and whoever, it starts to be, oh, this one can't make that date, that one can't make that date, then the meetings get pushed forward and forward until everyone can make it. Whereas if you've got small working groups, like you just said, then you gather the information, you bring it back to this meeting. And I would suggest that's what works.
John and then Melina.
Mine's a slightly different point, so if you want to hold fire. But
Okay. Melina.
I mean, in response to what Amanda's just said, surely you could just set a date, same as we do for the parish council meetings, and the people that can attend and want to attend, attend, and those that can't or don't want to, don't. It's really not that difficult.
Okay. Any other comments on working group procedures? If not, I'm going to, sorry, Colin and then Tracy.
Ever since we have operated a parish council, since I came on, we have worked with working groups who have looked at projects, not made decisions, but come back with all the information that would enable the council to make those decisions. And I don't see any point in necessarily changing that method of working. It sort of implies this, that the working groups are making decisions without taking proper consultation. Well, we're not making decisions. We are looking at every avenue, we're taking advice, and we report back to you. It's quite clear, and those are our parameters. And I don't see any point in opening up meetings whatsoever, and we just do what we're doing to the best of our ability.
Tracy?
I think the working groups just gives you flexibility that you can meet at short notice. These meetings are planned in advance, they're in our diary a year in advance. We know we have to attend these, those sorts of things. It's just going to be much easier with a small group of people to move things forward.
Lena?
Even at short notice, if people want to attend and make the effort to attend, I don't see a problem.
Okay, I think we've heard different views. I mean, my proposal will be that as things stand at the moment, we continue on the current setup of the way we operate. Those in favour of that, please show. Those against, please show. And any abstentions? That's carried by majority. Okay. So then we get to the update from the Somerset member, which I will just do very briefly. The main highlights. Highlights is an interesting choice. Oh, sorry, John, you had another issue. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to ask a question that may have been covered in the AGM, Chair. Reference to opening up post office services and the implication to the building. Is there any, and I know from previous conversations and previous meetings, there's been a hot subject of discussion that the shop wants a post office of some form. Is that still on the table, and are there implications to the physical build of the shop?
Certainly the update at the annual meeting was that yes, they are still looking to get a post office in.
Okay.
When we had a meeting some time ago, there was a query raised about whether there would be a physical change to the building. The architect at one point was wondering whether they would have to put reinforced ceilings and everything to stop access. The information we had back from the shop committee with their liaison that they'd had with the post office was that that was not required, as long as it was a solid brick built building with normal structure. They were not asking for extras to be put in terms of reinforcing of walls or ceilings.
Thank you.
So, Somerset Council report, just as I say, the main issues at the moment coming out of Somerset are financial. As I've mentioned before, we've still not got to a point where the final accounts for last year for the 5 previous councils have been signed off, but it's now looking as if that year's accounts will end up with a £20 million overspend, which will be met from reserves. We're due to have, again, because of the transfer of the 5 councils coming together, there's been some delay in reporting the finances for this financial year. The first quarter looks like it's coming to the reporting stage now, and ballpark we're looking at somewhere between £30 and £40 million shortfall, with the potential for it to get worse during the year if action isn't taken. So obviously there are a lot of discussions going on within the council at the moment as to how they are going to look at significant savings, both in terms of revenue and capital. But that is something that's going to come out over the next few months. You may have seen a lot of talk recently about phosphate pollution and the fact it's been holding up development across the county. That hasn't been something that's particularly affected us in the previous Sedgemoor patch. But what it has meant is that there's actually more development happening in Sedgemoor than possibly there would have been, because the developers that would have been in South Somerset, Taunton Dean and Mendip can't get their sites out until they sort out the phosphate issue, which is basically it's a pollutant that's causing, it collects in the rivers and then goes into the Somerset levels. Sedgemoor isn't affected so much because most of our water flows out towards the coast, and therefore it doesn't create that build-up of phosphates in a confined area. Somerset County is working on it at the moment. It's got government involved and is looking to secure something like £10 million from government to help with the solution that they want to bring in, because again, government wants houses built, and therefore this is holding up a lot of those currently. Other than that, I think I will, as we've got enough to get through on our agenda, I think that's probably all from me at the moment. Are there any other questions that anyone wants to ask on Somerset issues? Okay. Finance report, overwhelming.
So the statutory list for August 2023, reference our minute 25922, which was approved in April. I just need to approve the statutory payments. There's nothing unusual about it. It's all pretty standard stuff. If you need to find out exactly what that is, looking at the minutes for April will tell you exactly what the statutory payments were that were agreed at that meeting.
Is there a proposal then that we pay those statutory payments? All those in favour, please show. That's unanimous.
So that's, thank you for that, statutory. On the variable payments, we have 4 actually. One is the usual pay to payroll, which frankly I think probably will need next year to be approved as a statutory payment, because it's the same every month. So it's the same every month and it becomes a statutory payment really. But it's just the fee that we pay them for managing payroll. Nichols Facilities Management, again, is a kind of curious one, because you could argue it's a fixed payment because we pay it every month, but it does vary a bit. It goes from sort of 70, 80, 90 to 100. Actually, it's 70 for this month, so it's below what I put on the agenda. So it's 70 for this month that we're in now, or in fact for July. Parish room hire, parish hall hire, £183, which brings us pretty well up to date, at least as far as I can tell. And then finally, the Somerset Council invoice for dog bins and toilet contract of £1,536. That's for a half year. So they invoice us twice during the year. And that's no increase on last year. It's the same payments we made last year. In fact, it's the same payment that we've been paying for the last 5 years. So they've had no increases at all in that side of things. So that's the dog bins and the toilet contract. So they're the 4 variable payments. So if anybody's got any questions?
In which case, can I propose that we pay those? Malcolm. All those in favour, please show. And that would abstain, because obviously there is the one there for the hall. So, matters of consideration. Owen, do you want to say?
Well, the vacancy and co-option process needs to get underway. We had to delay it, as you know, we mentioned at the last meeting, because we didn't have a BKN publication due. It's important it goes into BKN because it needs to get the widest exposure. Now, the next publication of the BKN will be the September publication, and so we just need to agree that the advertisement for that will go into that publication alongside the notice boards. So the 2 methods of advertising will be notice boards and BKN. So I just need, because obviously it'll have to go in before the next meeting, so I just need your authorisation to place that advert.
So James proposed that. All those in favour of doing that, please show. That's unanimous. Okay. Next item is the play equipment, and I said at the last meeting I would bring you the update tonight in terms of where we've got with the proposal for the aerial runway or zip wire. If I can pass, there's a couple of quotes there. I will talk you through these as well. The situation is I went in the end to 4 different companies quoted. There's Wicksteed Leisure, GB Sports, Peak Playgrounds and Creative Play, which was originally an estimate, but that's now firmed. So they've all come in broadly similar sort of quotes, as you can see. The cost for Wicksteed, about 14,500. Obviously we can get the VAT back. GB Sports for a steel runway was 15.5 or 15.2 for the wooden version, which it says steel, I'm sorry, that should be wood. Peak Playgrounds only do wood, and they were 14.8. And then Creative Play, they've actually come in at 14,795, but they include, within their quote, the relocation of the seesaw, which obviously would have to move were it to go into place. That would be moved onto the area, as I mentioned last time, where that sort of A-frame is with the swinging chains. It would include the removal of that wooden kit, and it would include reinstating wet pour to everywhere where it's been done. So it would be a wet pour surface around the seesaw, and they're 14,795. But as you can see, 3,700 odd of that is the relocating and the resetting up in the new location. It's up to members to decide where we go or we don't. But,
I did, through the community clerks Facebook page, ask other clerks whether they'd heard of the one we weren't familiar with, was Creative Play. And I asked a number of clerks' colleagues up and down the country, and I had several come back that they had used them very successfully.
these are a couple of illustrations that they've done as to what it might look like and how it would be set out on the ground.
I mean, I would have said it looks good to get somebody to install it and to remove and relocate everything, to do the whole lot in one go and do the surface.
Yeah.
That's quite. I wouldn't have said that was bad to do all that. What a weight that is on that.
But you'll be all right.
They said about approximately 20 stone
Really good
roughly.
fun.
So they certainly said, yeah, because I did raise with all the people who came out, I did say, look, this is obviously an unsupervised area. There will be people who won't necessarily use it as it should be used. How robust are these things?
I'm
And they
thinking
said,
music on the green.
but they said over 20 should be well catered for in there. But multiple users are not encouraged.
What's
Oh,
8.
The run, obviously going down, is that going to be done as well? You know, if someone falls off it, is that going to be a...
So the bit that refers to the grass matting,
Sorry.
so everywhere underneath the
Yeah.
zip wire is grass matting.
That's what I mean, yeah. So it's going to be a
So
safety...
that's part of the quote for. So it's safer surface completely underneath
Yeah.
the wire, and as a reinstatement of the safer surface on the other side as well. Colin?
Okay.
Yeah, I was a bit concerned about wood and its lifetime, whereas we've always had problems, say, with the trim tread with wood not staying the course, whereas steel obviously would. That's one concern. The other concern is how are we paying for it?
In terms of the wood, it is obviously impregnated. They also, as part of this quote, would be sitting it on metal feet, so it doesn't go the wood into the ground. It would be,
Okay.
and also that was because I said to them with some of the other wooden stuff we have where it's trimmed round, that causes problems. So this is a protector for making sure that doesn't happen.
Okay.
I mean, in terms of the funding, I think Owen was saying to me, in effect, where we are at the moment with the grants that we had in place previously and the funding that we've put aside, we've got about 9 grand in the kitty.
Yeah.
So we would be needing to look for a further 5 from within our own budget and reserves. Now, obviously, if we were to do this, I think we're probably looking at this being in the early part of next year. One would imagine if we continue putting the 2,500 aside next year towards play equipment, that will fill 2.5 gap, which leaves us with 2.5 to come in effect from general reserves. Were we to do it all, we look for somewhere else to get some extra funding. But with the finances we've got, we could do it from reserves and then have to make those up at a later date.
Right.
John,
Chair,
welcome.
just in answer to that point you just raised and an observation from myself, is there an opportunity that we don't have to have the artificial grass? There are obviously environmental issues with artificial grass, impacts for bees, etc.
It's not artificial grass. So what it is, it's the same safer matting that we've got underneath the slide. So it's basically, it's like grasscrete that you drive on, but it's made out of plastic. So you sit it in the grass comes through it, but you've got that bounciness underneath it.
Okay. Again, I stand to be corrected. I've used the one at Barrow with my children, and that I would say is they've enjoyed it at certain ages, even to now. Actually it's nice. But yeah, if that has to be there, obviously there's an artificial grass, and that's great.
Did you enjoy it?
Too dangerous for me with my back.
They are good though, yeah.
I thought it was going to be sited across the top of the green.
No, because there isn't room at the top of the green, so the side bit where it shows on the plan there is basically that's because it's about 21 metres long, so it's what 60 odd feet plus. So to get it in, you would have, by running it down that side bit, you get it in with room at either end. The gap, the other side of if you put it at the top, it would be beyond the climbing frame, and there isn't enough width beyond the climbing frame before you hit the fence at the back of the green. And also there it's much more sloping, whereas this is more flat.
Sure. Sorry, I'm sorry, I'm just unclear where it's going. Sorry, Bob, if I've misunderstood that. I'm looking at the drawing of where it's going.
So
left-hand side of the green.
yeah, so
left-hand side of the green,
If
yeah.
you're looking from the car park.
Yeah.
Where
Where
the
the
seesaw
is at the
is.
moment.
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, okay. Yep. Thank you.
I mean, obviously, in terms of the kit itself, we approached, as you remember, the school to get the idea from the kids as to what was it that they were wanting to see on the green, and this is what they came up with. I mean, if we can do it, then great, but it's up to members to make that decision. AD.
We've got a bench here as well, they can move that as well, aren't they?
So the plan at the moment is that the concrete bench that's in the corner stays.
Yeah.
The bench, the picnic bench
Picnic
that's in the
bench,
corner was the one that we
yeah.
said we were going to move
Oh,
and
well,
put
yeah, that's what-
where in effect you've taken the other bench out of.
Yeah.
So that would be a project for us as a working group that we
Right.
said we would do.
I would have said that we should go with this creative play one because they're going to do everything. Like you said, we asked the school what they wanted. And if we do this, we've listened to the school, we've listened to the school children, we've thrown it out open to the community, and I think that this is what we should deliver. And going with that creative one because it'll give us less hassle. We haven't got to recite everything. All down to them.
Any other comments from members before we go to a vote?
Okay, so this is a vote to actually proceed.
To go ahead.
Okay, but on a timescale of now or a timescale of when they can do it, which will be next year maybe?
I mean, I don't know what members feel, but I would have felt that we ought to be looking to get this in before the spring of next year.
Yes.
But I don't think it necessarily is going to get done in the next few weeks. So but if we can give them they know they've got it and they can schedule it in. It also means that by then we'll know if anything else is happening on I mean, what's happening on the green shouldn't affect that side anyway, but you never know.
Yeah, okay.
Melina?
Have they said how long this quote is valid for? Maybe they have a bit of a...
Yeah, I will have to go back and confirm that with them, but I think I can confirm that. I think Malcolm and then John.
I think that we should approach Hinkley Point or various other sources to get a donation towards this.
Okay, we can certainly try. Yeah, we can look at if people have got places they think we can tap up for some funding, then yeah. Okay. John?
Yeah, just to add to that, from previous council meetings, if we could make it the contractual agreement that the date is set, because obviously we have had issues in the past and play part with dates and fun and games, if we could just add that as a stipulation to the contract, that the date is the date, with a penalty or some issue that if it's not delivered by that date, that we get something back or something contractual to that terms.
So if I'm reading, so what we're looking at, the recommendation tonight is that we agree that we're going ahead. we want to get a confirmed date for installation, which will, when we contact them, and also in the meantime, if there are other sources of funding that we can get, then we will secure those. But our members happy that in effect we're making the decision tonight that this is what we're going ahead with.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll do a bit of research on funding.
So-
And we'll obtain to another trust if it goes in next year.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's,
Amanda, in effect, are you
That's
happy
a
with
proposal,
both?
yeah, I'll propose that, yeah.
Okay. All those in favour of that then please show. That's unanimous. Excellent. Thank you very much. That takes us to ANPR. Any
Well,
update?
ANPR is continuing to be a bit of a nightmare. I wrote to the police to find out where they wanted the documents sent, which we'd taken a lot of time. Colin and I filled them in. We've taken a fair bit of time on this, and as yet I had no reply from them. I've got 2 documents which need to be processed before we can purchase the actual ANPR. We can't purchase until they've been approved. But I have no idea where to send them. There's nothing on the forms on where to send them. So I will continue to pursue this with Trevor Simpson and find out whether we can get some concrete. I think one of them might need to go to ICO, which is fine, because we're paid up members of ICO, so if we have to send it to them, it's fine.
Can you just remind us what the ICO is?
Information Commissioner's Office. We pay a subscription every year to the Information Commissioner's Office, which is regarding data primarily, and that we will use data in a proper way. And we pay a subscription to sign up to that. So yeah, I've got a feeling that one of the documents will need to go to them, but I still need to have it confirmed. So let's watch this space. And this will soon become one of the longest running items on the agenda, isn't it? We'll do our best. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, so item D then is the community shop and build items not covered by the working groups, and falling of plans to quantity surveyor. So I think we've covered most of the issues relating to the shop build and the fact of what happened with the working group. One of the things we did raise with the architect at that meeting was just to say what was his view in terms of getting some QS quantity surveyor figures. He felt it would be useful to do if we could. Particularly, he felt it would be useful for the smaller builders who come out of the woodwork to tender, because it would give them a bit more information that they could work with. So on that basis, once we've got the detail of what it is we're going to be putting together as the package, are members happy that we consult with I can't remember the gentleman's name, Colin, I can't remember.
Julian.
Thank you. To have consultation with him to get those figures done. Now at the moment he has not said that there would be a fee. I think obviously were we to find out there was a fee, we would need to bring that back to the council as well.
Yes.
But obviously if there isn't and he's happy to do it on a helping the community basis, then if members are happy with that. John?
And just on the question of quantity surveyor and on cost, if it is free, obviously it is free, but if there is a cost, is that not a cost that should be borne by the builder that gets the project as opposed to the shop or the parish taxpayer?
Yeah, I think certainly as things stand at the moment, there isn't a cost. As I say, the issue that was raised by the architect was that if we were able to secure this, then it makes it more straightforward for the tenderers to come forward and would save them a cost that they would then be charging. But if there is going to be any cost to this, we will bring it back to this meeting to decide whether we think we should be paying that cost or not. But obviously if we can secure it without a cost, then it's a benefit to all, hopefully.
And again, just to that point, is it an opportunity we actually need 2 opinions from quantity surveyors and not just one?
I think, I mean, that's a decision for the council, but my own feeling is this is giving a ballpark sort of figure for people to use for their Q. I mean, if tenderers want to use their own QS, they can certainly do that themselves. this is not us saying we're doing the quantity surveying work for you, it's us giving them a bit of further information. So, are members happy then that we do make the information available to the quantity surveyor, subject to us obviously getting that, what the detail is of the tender? All those in favour, please